The information provided in this program is for entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice.
There has been a lot of publicity regarding the wonderfully lucrative opportunity that Bitcoin presents. For those of you that have seen our recent episode on Bitcoin and decided to enter into the market and purchase some for yourself, congratulations, as Bitcoin has risen in price since that episode and has the potential to continue this trend in the future.
Hello and welcome to the We Are Change talk show. Thank you for joining me. It's great to be back in the studio. As a risk management strategy, I've been broadcasting from the backup channels and utilising Instagram as well. We have to be strategic in these current times, with many people in the truth movement, including myself, receiving community guideline strikes. So for the next month and a half, I'll be focusing on some less controversial videos. Today we'll be discussing cryptocurrency. For many of you that have been watching the channel for a considerable amount of time, you would have noticed I've uploaded content in the past describing the gains people are making and how to get involved in this investment. So we'll be hearing from Trader Cobb, who will give us an overview. Let's go to that interview now. I'd like to welcome to the show Craig Cobb, cryptocurrency trader and host of the Trader Cobb Crypto Show. Thank you very much for joining me. How are you going there today, Craig?
Mate, very well. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you're more than welcome. You've generated a substantial following. Tell the viewers about some of the work you've been doing there, please.
Yeah, mate, look, I've been trading for 16 years. And yeah, geez, makes me feel really old by saying that. And look at essentially the last, what are we now, 2021, the last solid 3 years, nearly 4 years actually coming up to July, I've been just focusing exclusively on cryptocurrency. I got a whiff of it back in 2017 and started to get involved, and I just did really well. And it's the most volatile market in the world. And for a trader, I mean, we're after volatility because it means we make money if we know what we're doing. And fortunate for me, I've put in the years and the hard work, and I know what I'm doing. And as we've progressed as a space, we've continued to see products and trading tools get better and better. And yeah, I started a business to help other people to learn all about how to trade cryptocurrency, basically.
That's very important that people can utilize this, and providing them the tools to do so. A lot of people, their apprehension stems from not having the knowledge about this, because a lot of it is very complicated. Though once people understand the fundamentals and just how valuable it is, people can make some amazing gains off this. Would you recommend that everybody take advantage and get involved in this opportunity, investing in Bitcoin and other crypto?
I mean, yeah, yes and no. I mean, look, everybody's a lot of people, right? There's definitely, I mean, look, everybody should have some sort of exposure, in my view, in my personal opinion, towards digital assets, because they are the future. You know, if you go back to 2017, we had JP Morgan, we had Deutsche Bank, we had Goldman Sachs, we had Citibank, we had all the big banks saying it's fraud, it's a scam, it's bad, it's this, it's that. And of course, now all these firms are providing products for their clients to trade, and Wall Street and banking is pretty straightforward, really. It's if they don't have a product they can sell to their clients, they just poo-poo it. So we've seen the space evolve considerably. We've seen the price of Bitcoin increase considerably. And of course, there's opportunity out there now with all the different altcoins and whatnot to really make some very, very good money. The difference between making good money and just being involved is education. And, you know, it's great that I'm doing what I'm doing, you know, from a standpoint of teaching people how to trade through checklist systems. So it's pretty straightforward, mate. I mean, literally the checklists, like the kids have been into this, so it's all ripped up, but you tick boxes, mate. I don't think, I let the market tell me what to do. And it's I got a great little community there as well of people that are, you know, working together, following the same 3 strategies and essentially helping each other. So I couldn't be happier. I think everyone should have some exposure, but I think it comes with, first of all, understanding what you're doing. And the first thing is risk management.
Very important for the viewers to take on board there. See, it's valuable to have mentors and financial advisors that can reassure people when the market is volatile. They see their money going down dramatically, it's falling like a brick, and they think, oh, I'll never see those gains again. But for them to zoom out, look at the higher time frame, and then they'll be able to say, well, look, this is in most common times a natural retracement. It's quite normal, building stability, and then you'll see it head back up again. So it's very positive to have someone guide them through, isn't it?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, when it comes to holding Bitcoin or crypto assets, regardless of whether you want to be a trader or not, you've got to understand how markets work to a certain extent, because there's a point at which you get in, your entry point. There's a point at which you should get out when you're wrong, and that's for a trade. And we manage that risk, right? The difference between your entry and your stop loss, you might be risking $10,000, you might be risking $50. It's up to the individual based on the size of their account, and that's where risk management comes in. Certainly the longer term picture on many projects, especially when we talk, to Bitcoin or the top 10, they have recovered quite well from having some significant declines back through 2018 and even 19. But I think the most important thing is really to understand the dynamic of a market. A lot of people in 2017 I saw get in, but they didn't get out. They might have been millionaires on paper, and then after it was all said and done, they didn't have very much at all. And that's a really sad scenario. And the only reason people go through these cycles is because they don't understand that you must take profits, you must have exit points, you must manage your psychology. And by understanding what you're doing, well, you can manage yourself and you can make it work to your advantage, as opposed to just being another fool out there, giving their money to someone else.
Yes, and that can happen too. And a lot of people, they have this fear of missing out, so they want to jump on board while it's up, and then it's their devastation when they see it falling down. But the higher time frames, very important. Now, most analysts, a lot of them are predicting a collapse of the dollar. Now, cryptocurrency, would you say that is a safe haven from this crisis?
Look, it is a haven. If you look at the dollar and the reason for the comments around the collapse of the dollar and whatnot, it comes basically from it being devalued through the stimulus that continues to be printed. If you go back to 2008, when we saw the GFC, that was the first amount of stimulus, and that was in the billions, and everyone was like, wow, because it was the first time in the modern age where we'd seen central governments or central banking systems, because not all banking systems are the government. We saw them printing money, which of course that's leans towards inflation. And what we're seeing at the moment is unprecedented amounts of money come into the markets. I believe the statistic is in the last 2 years, I think 40% of the US dollar that's in circulation has recently been printed in those 2 years. Which, if you've got a one of a piece watch, and that watch is worth $1 million because it's super special and it's rare and it's been made by this bloke, and now that watch goes out and there's 1 million of those watches, is a watch still worth $1 million? Well, part of the reason the watch was worth $1 million was because of the scarcity and the fact that it was a one of one. That's the same with the NFTs we're seeing in the market at the moment. If you then flood the market with more of that product, then your supply increases whilst the demand might remain the same, but there's a lot more product there to go around. So naturally, we're going to see the devaluation of whatever that may be, in this case, the US dollar. Things like gold, it's a safe haven as well. I mean, that's a word I can say, safe. Gold is relatively safe. It just doesn't go up very much at the moment. You would have thought that last year, with everything that was going on, and even this year with COVID, stimulus, unstable markets to a certain extent for quite a period of time at the early stages of last year, from sort of January into sort of March-ish, that we would have seen gold really rocket. Well, that failed to occur. We hit 2000 and failed. So I think Bitcoin is also an area where one can have outside or external financial system exposure, and give yourself that chance for that upside, and to own your own money, realistically own it. I mean, if you've got a slab of gold in your house, you own that, but do you own the futures that you're trading? Do you own, if a gold mining company that you own is doing well and it goes bankrupt, well, you own 100% of nothing, right? So Bitcoin is something that you always own. It will fluctuate. It is volatile. And again, that's why people need to understand this market before they get really stuck into it.
Very valuable information once again. And see, for the viewers, they've been taught throughout the years, just put your money in the bank, but they don't factor in hyperinflation, and that can be devastating, like we've seen in Venezuela. And their whole financial livelihood can be impacted severely. So yes, to have a cryptocurrency, it's very wise in these current times
Look,
now.
even just any inflation. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't even need to be hyperinflation. I mean, if I was to have $1 million in the bank right now, then I'm getting what? Probably at that amount, I'd be lucky to get 1.8% in a term deposit locked for 12 months. I mean, come on. You know, if I went to the bank and asked for $1 million, I'm borrowing it at probably a bit higher than that rate, or roughly around 2.35, something like that. So it's a very much a one-way street when it comes to banks. We get bugger all, and they get nearly all of the cream on top. I think people are wising up to that, and that's why we're seeing strong stock markets around the world at the moment. We're seeing strong cryptocurrency markets, because nobody wants to be sitting in cash. And even we're seeing strong property markets here in Australia as well. No one wants cash, because cash is dead money, and anyone who's got money wants to make it work for themselves, and then moving into other asset classes. And that's what makes cryptocurrency and digital assets so exciting at the moment.
It certainly is. And then we also have the threat of social credit scores looming, and they're trying to phase out currency and the cash that's in circulation. So there's many threats, and people are looking at alternatives now. It's very important. Some of the questions I get, a lot of people ask, well, I don't really have enough money to put into crypto or anything like that. But people can start off for as little as $20 a week, you know, keep it like that. Can't
Yeah,
they?
there's no I don't have enough in this market. If I go look, there are brokers out there now that are fractionalizing companies like Apple and Google, these types of things, because their actual individual share price, and Tesla for that matter, their individual share price is very, very high. So a lot of people can't afford one Apple share or one Tesla share. The beauty of Bitcoin is that it's got so many decimals that, yeah, you can buy $20 worth. And the thing is, it's not just about the potential upside of Bitcoin, because the potential upside is enormous. It really is. You know, there's a lot of talk of Bitcoin getting to $1 million at some point, all that. And look, I bloody well hope it does, of course, because I own Bitcoin. But it's about also having an alternative. And if you put skin in the game, as you say, you know, it means that you start learning about it. That's what I did in July of 2017. I put a bit in, not a huge amount, but I put a bit in because I knew that I needed to invest before I could then really commit to learning about it. If people start to come in and they dribble a bit in and they just sort of dollar cost average, that's one way to get involved in the market. What they'll find themselves doing then is being interested. Interest then breaks them into this space. Then all of a sudden they understand what it means. At that point, that individual then has a choice. Do you put more in? Do you have savings? What do you want to do? And of course, everybody's different, but it starts with that knowledge base. And you know, I work with people that want to learn to trade so that they can make money and hang on to it and leverage their money as well. So when it comes to trading, you don't need a lot. You need to understand how to manage your risk, but you don't need a lot. So you could have, say, $2,000 in a trading account and risk $20 per trade, risking 1% per trade. That's the way I teach. And if you've got a 100 to 1 trade, then that $20 is now $2,000. And that might seem like a far-fetched idea to have a trade that does 100 times what your entry between your entry and stop loss was. So let's say you had a $1 stop loss and it moves $100. That's 100 times what you got in on. So it happens frequently. It doesn't happen all the time, but you get 2 or 3 of those each year. And I'll tell you what, you can turn your account into something pretty special pretty quick. And there's no other market in the world where you can do that. It's not a gamble. It's a gamble if you don't know what you're doing.
Very well said. So if someone puts the time in, they do the research, they educate themselves on the blockchain technology, how it is all operating. They look at how it's increased in the past and future predictions. They can look at analysts, and that can give them reassurance, because sometimes you see a lot of conflicting statements from people. They're like, oh, I don't know anything about that. I don't trust it. But then they'll go and play the poker machines, or they'll gamble on the horses. So it's about being strategic with your money and looking at your odds and having a really wise and sensible approach, isn't it?
It is. And look, there's a whole bunch of resources that I've put out there that's absolutely free as well, if anyone wants to look at just TraderCobb. So Trader, COBB. If you go onto YouTube, the first video you'll see there is a whole walkthrough as to how cryptocurrency works and what the opportunity is. I've done it in a way that I kind of did it for my parents, to explain it to them. They're boomers, 65 and 66. So they've always been like, oh, you know, I don't understand. I'm like, you don't understand it because you've never looked into it. I've done a sort of step-by-step process and walk through. There's a whole bunch there that's absolutely free on YouTube. So it just sort of it takes the techno babble out, because I don't understand technology all that well. I understand investing very well. I understand trading even better. So I've tried to break it down into some easy to understand chunks that just about anybody can understand. And of course, because it's free, you can just watch it as many times as you want.
Excellent. Now, if somebody wanted to take advantage, they've done their research, they think this is the appropriate investment for me, how would they go about getting involved? They would look at an exchange and then they would join. How would they know which is trustworthy and which isn't? Because there's a lot of scams going around, and that is very daunting for people to try and navigate through and find a suitable platform. So what would you advise?
I think it's called ADCA, the Australian Digital Currency Association, or something like that. That's a good place to start. If they've got an exchange that's listed as being underneath their sort of remit or their regulation, so to speak, or that might not be the right word. Sorry, I care if I got that wrong, but they're there to sort of help guide Australians. The bottom line is this: if it sounds too good to be true, probably is. There are a lot of people out there that are receiving phone calls at the moment going, here's an opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Look, if you pick up the phone and someone's trying to sell you a cryptocurrency or telling you to do this or do that, don't do it. That's not the way to do it. It might sound like the easy thing to do. And don't forget as well, they can quite easily look at what you've been looking up. So they'll have these things that will show you, that will show the scammers what you've been searching. So it's no surprise when all of a sudden you're like, how do I increase my Bitcoin, right? And then you get a phone call from somebody going, hey, and they tell you exactly what you want to hear. So there are some good ones out there in Australia: CoinJar, SwiftX, CoinSpot. Of course, I think you had Michaela on recently. She's got options to get in as well. There's FTX with the OTC side of things, a company called Toro Trading for the larger amounts. There's a plethora of very secure and safe options. My point is, sorry, my main aim with anyone who's getting started is to read through things, understand things, ask in different communities. If they go to my website, tradercobb.com, there's a whole free series of courses in there, absolutely free. And part of that is what accounts to open. And there's discounts in there for people to be able to open up and get discounts, that sort of thing. So that's another option as well. I've already done these are the companies that I use. So there is some trust there as well. There's plenty of different options available. Just make sure that, you're not handing it over to something that sounds like, you're going to make $1 million in 3 weeks, because it ain't going to happen.
Yes, people that are looking for a quick buck, they should be looking at a long-term strategy and protect their financial future. We see a lot of institutions adopting cryptocurrency. You mentioned Tesla getting them on board, $1.5 billion. It's only a matter of time before the rest of these corporations follow suit. Would you say Apple and other big tech jumping on? And then we'll see it go parabolic, won't we, the price?
That's my belief, yeah. I mean, before Tesla had MicroStrategy, they're in for a couple of billion. We had Grayscale, they're in for, I don't know what's worth now, maybe 6 or 7 billion. Square, the payments app, one of the owners of that, or directors or whatever it is Jack Dorsey, who's Twitter. Twitter hasn't put their balance in, from what I understand at this stage, for Treasury. But we're seeing lots more companies come out and, if not use it wholly for their treasury, they're using it in parts for their treasury. Apple is a massive player. And of course, I've read some research recently where they said that if Apple was to accept or use cryptocurrency and accept cryptocurrency as a form of payment, they could increase their profits by 40 billion a year. And if Apple comes in and does that, that is going to be the icing on the cake as far as I'm concerned. They are the king of first-time mover advantage. Of course, they brought out the first smartphone. That it might not have been the first smartphone, but it's the first one that we knew about, right? They brought it out. Everyone needed an Apple. Now, I bought one of those first model Apples, and I have bought the phones. All of my phones have been Apple ever since. Why? Because I'm used to using it. I don't use Android. So they know what first mover advantage is. They've seen the competitors in Android creep in and sneak in and take part of their market share. If they act first, accepting cryptocurrency, then they can really wipe the board with it. And I think more and more companies are being educated on just how powerful it can be, not just as a measure of treasury, but as a measure of support and payments. Tesla put 1.5 billion into Bitcoin. When Bitcoin is accepted as a method of payment for Tesla, we will pay them back handsomely on that. People will be buying cars with Bitcoin. People will be supporting Elon Musk because he's the renegade entrepreneur that we all love, right? So the community will support. That's another area I think the big corporates should be considering and really looking into, is the PR and the exposure that just simply being involved in Bitcoin gives you at this stage. If it's too late, it'll be all over.
Yeah, exactly. And with all the positive publicity at the moment, it's more of a risk to not take advantage of Bitcoin and jump on board. We have seen massive fluctuations recently. It reached an all-time high and then came back down, and now it's at a pretty good spot. Do you think we'll hit 100K this year? What sort of time frame are you thinking?
Look, I definitely believe that there is the absolute possibility of that occurring. And being a man who works on probabilities as a trader, I'd say the probability is fairly high, to the point where I'm not selling my Bitcoin. All right. I think we can hit 100,000, and depending on some certain market, factors, I think we could go above 100,000. When Bitcoin really kicks, it kicks like a mule. It kicks like a bloody Clydesdale. It kicks hard. It's a big horse. And so far, we've seen retail interest, we've seen some corporate interest, but I think once more corporates come into it and more Bitcoin is snapped up, because they hold it, right? Which means that, again, coming back to the deflation of the US dollar, while supply increases, well, the value decreases. With Bitcoin, the supply is 21 million capped, but the supply to market, because most people that buy Bitcoin, a lot of the market is holding that Bitcoin, which means that 21 million is not a factual number. It's how much is available to be bought. Therefore, less supply or capped supply, and then a limited supply of those that wish to sell it, coupled with a very strong demand for it. And we could see some astronomical type of numbers this year. I think we will see 100 grand this year. I'll caveat that by saying I have been wrong before and I will be wrong again.
Yes. Well, it's all speculation, but it sounds very promising when you look at the information. Now, some people, they store their money online on the exchange, or they can transfer it to a hard wallet, can't they? Would you say it's safe just to leave it on the exchange and keep it that way, or?
Well, look, from my point of view, as being a trader, someone who's active in markets most days, whether I take a trade or not every day, it depends on the market, of course, but I do have cryptocurrency that is sitting on exchanges for my pool, so I can trade margin on those, but only a small amount of that. Most of my cryptocurrency, my digital assets, are stored on cold storage, so a little wallet device similar to a USB. Again, the education of how to use them, they're quite simple, but I will say that a first round through, it can be quite daunting. And again, a handhold approach is very much needed. But if it's on your own stored hardware wallet and you've got all your key phrases and everything like that, then it's yours. If it's on an exchange, we've seen many exchanges being hacked, not so much recently. The big ones have held themselves together and have very good security. But I would certainly suggest that if someone wanted to just buy and hold, especially in the larger amounts, that they should be looking at some form of cold storage, a Trezor wallet or a Nano, something like that, to keep it their own, really.
Yes. Now, we've also seen MasterCard get involved and help with transactions and Bitcoin ATMs. This is very progressive, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And it was always going to come, in my view. They kind of have to. As fiat, and look, it's not just the fiat side of it. It's the businesses that want it. And what I loved so much about the MasterCard play was that it was just such an obvious sign of a community-led change in business, right? Business is there to facilitate the needs of their customer, their client. Of course, MasterCard is a huge business. We've all, if we don't have Visa, we've got MasterCard, right? Most of us have got a MasterCard. They make money off our transactions and whatnot. Of course, that's how it works. Now, if there's enough people, i.e. businesses, really saying, we want to accept crypto, we want to accept crypto, we want to accept crypto, then they have to do it. And that's the same reason as why Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, all these different banks are there, because they're being asked about it so much that if they don't do it, then a challenger is going to come in and just wipe the board with them. So it's community-led growth, in the business, in these big businesses, because we, the people, want it. And it's a prime example of, people say, if you really want to protest X or Y, protest with your money. And people just get too lazy to do that. They're like, well, no, I want to buy that because it's cheap and it's from China, or I want to buy that because it's from Coles and I don't care how the pig died. All this sort of stuff. Well, realistically, this is absolute certainty and proof that what we want, we can have, as long as there's enough of us saying we want it. We can effectively create the change that we want. And we're seeing that through the likes of MasterCard and the big players out there. The only reason they're doing it, it's not because they want to be technologically advanced. They couldn't give two shits. They just want to make money. It's because they want to make money and we want to use it. And if they help us to use what we want, they'll make money off us. And that's how business works. And it's nice to see them catch on.
It certainly is. The lucrative asset is definitely advanced, because there was a time where it was always linked in with criminal activities, Silk Road, and any unusual activities. They would say, well, why wouldn't you just pay with cash? It sounds very sneaky. But now people's whole outlook has changed and they see this as legitimate and a very powerful investment. So, and this is only going to keep increasing, isn't it? The adoption, and once the masses get involved in this, because only a small percent actually hold Bitcoin. There's many more to come, isn't there?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but certainly what you said, I do agree with. Like the sort of the momentum's grown, and it's growing, and the likes of a number of those companies we just spoke about, it does bring that legitimacy, the growth in the space. It does bring that interest factor. So, yeah, I can see us having a pretty strong Bitcoin for years to come. And don't get me wrong, there will be fluctuations in price. It will go up, it will go down, as all markets do. And it does happen quite fast with Bitcoin. But if you think about the people that bought it at like $19,000, $20,000 back in December of 2017, Bitcoin price right now is $59,068 US. So we're talking, 76,000 Australian dollars of Bitcoin, something around that sort of figure. Are they happy? Yeah, they're happy as long as they held on to it. So we do go through these cycles, but it continues year in or decade in, decade. Well, we've only had one decade to be fair, but cycle in, cycle out, it does continue to be a very strong performing asset class.
It certainly does. And it's sensible to keep a level head in these markets. We see a lot of crypto videos with outrageous expressions saying it's going to go to 1 million, or on the other side of the spectrum, they're like, it's going to 0, it's going to implode, and they're really worried. Sometimes you just have to relax and, just take it as it comes and, focus on the future and zoom out, don't you? Very important.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, again, it comes down to understanding what you're doing. If you're 16 years old, you jump into an F1 car, do you think you're going to be able to do all right with that? Probably not, no. But if you've been driving your whole life and you've been racing and working your way towards that, you're going to be fine. The difference between comfort and fear is just a lack of understanding. And that's what it comes down to. You know what you're doing? It's not so scary. If it's the first time you do anything, even when you start, just start with baby steps, start small, get yourself comfortable. But you got to get started. The great old saying, I remember reading it when I was 15, is you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. And nothing's been more true. There's no traders that I know that say, most traders I know will say, I wish I had started that earlier. Now, I started when I was 21, so I did start early. And I'm so thankful that I did, because I'm happy. Things are good. So yeah, just get started, guys. Just get kicked off.
Excellent advice. You've spoken brilliantly today, providing wonderfully valuable information that people can take advantage of and hopefully have the opportunity of making some life-changing money. If people wanted to go about finding you and locating you and your services, how would they go about doing that?
Mate, the best way, there's two things to do. One is go to YouTube, TraderCobb, TraderCobb, TraderCobb. Have a look at the videos there, get yourself to a certain point, and obviously go to tradercobb.com. As I said, there's a bunch of information there and an absolutely free course, about 4 hours of information there. It's a free course, shows you what accounts to open, shows you how to use them, all that sort of stuff. So it's very simple. Just jump on there, have a look at that, get yourself started. You either like it or you don't. You find someone else, no dramas.
Excellent. I'll put all the information in the description. Thank you very much once again.
Mate, absolute pleasure to everyone out there. Good luck.
Well, that wraps up today's show. Be sure to subscribe to the backup channels, Jeffrow Productions, We Are Change Melbourne Clips, and follow the Instagram page for funny memes and short videos. I'll see you next time on the We Are Change Talk Show.